Call the meeting to order. Dr. Deegan, the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll, please.
Ms. Clodfelter? Here. Ms. Nyworth? Here. Dr. Bridges?
Here.
Mr. Jester?
Here.
Ms. Edwards?
Here.
Colonel Curtis?
Okay. Do we have any special guests?
No, not tonight.
Okay. Departmental reports.
Under departmental reports, under 5A, we have the printed business and educational services report. And if the board doesn't have any questions from that, we have item 5B, which Dr. Polk asked to take the podium and give us an update regarding the new baseline test scores and changes in the state testing system. Thank you, Dr. Polk.
Thank you, and thank you to the board. And if I may take a moment and just say, happy School Board Appreciation Month, and very special thank you to the principals for them doing the hard work that you see before you.
And before Dr. Polk starts, I don't know if the board realizes, I think I mentioned it. Dr. Polk was on the committee over the last several years, the 95-member committee, the Assessment and Accountability Task Force. She's been involved at the State Department personally through this whole process. There's probably nobody in the southwestern corner of the state that knows more about it. So.
Well, yes, thank you, Dr. Deegan, and I need to reiterate, even before I get started, that the things that we have before us have not been federally approved, which is our ESSA plan. However, for Lawton, we have studied it, and we're going to move about as if so, and we'll make changes as those changes come, along the line. So it'll be much easier for us opposed to starting brand new once it is officially approved. On the night, I'm prepared to share with you the state testing baseline system and changes in our testing system. On Sunday, January 7th, the Lawton Constitution reported 2 stories. Lawton Public Schools test scores take a dip, and most Lawton students are at or above statewide assessment average on tests. I'd like to take a moment and elaborate on that assessment and accountability. In regards to the state testing baseline scores, in the past, students were deemed proficient if they demonstrated the basic grade level skills. Now, in accordance with House Bill 3218, proficiency is obtained if students are on track to be college and/or career ready. The number of students who perform at the proficient and advanced levels declined or took a dip because scores prior to 2017 only allowed us to compare ourselves to ourselves and not to the national average. And so we have new academic standards, new assessments, and new performance levels. So I'm going to ask, there's a packet right underneath your plastic folder there. If you'll take a look at redefining the performance levels, there to the left, you see what's called NAEP, N-A-E-P. That stands for the National Assessment of Educational Progress. If you look at the chart, advanced is still advanced, proficient is proficient, but it means that the student is on track for college and career ready. With the new look, where we used to call it limited knowledge, it's now deemed basic, which means a student is developing Not that they're unsatisfactory, yet it's yet passing. Significant mind shift that we need to ensure that everyone is aware of. And unsatisfactory is now deemed below basic. So I have that chart there so that you can see now that Oklahoma has strengthened its academic standards, and now that we have aligned to the new assessments, we now look at national benchmarks. And those national benchmarks are NAEP, SAT, and ACT, so that you'll be familiar with that. So once again, we took a dip, but we did score at or above state average. We did better than most of the other districts across the state for that point there. Now, the second point I'd like to take a moment and talk to you about is the changes that are already in the testing system. And those are what we call accountability indicators. And referring to your next sheet, which is the Oklahoma Accountability System, you'll notice that it's been divided into 3 columns: elementary, middle, and high school. All divisions will measure ELA, which is English Language Arts, math, and science. Only elementary and middle school will measure ELA and math progress, or that growth. All divisions will measure ELPA, which is English Language Proficiency. Those are the students who take a WIDA assessment test, and it's deemed that they do not speak English at least a 5.0 rating scale. And so that will be part of our new A to F report card. This is a new reporting area, and Emily Baker and Teresa Donahue are keeping a close eye on those. They have actually gone through and identified the exact students that need to actually pass, and have given that information to the head building principal. So I'm thankful to that department for the work they've done. Now, at the high school level, the accountability measures are graduation rate and post-secondary opportunities, such as college course enrollment or any industry certifications, and Mr. Owens, Rick Owens, is keeping an eye on that for us to ensure that we're in line with that. Our previous A to F report card assigned 1 letter grade to a building as a single summative indicator on performance. The new card will assign an overall grade, but will also assign grades to each one of the major indicators. So you may have a B in English, a B in math, C in science. They'll do an average, and then that building will get an overall score. And so another major item to take in consideration is, in the past, one student could count multiple times. For instance, in 5th grade, they could count in math and reading. They could count as a low-performing student, and so that one student would count 3 different times. So with the new system, to take that double and triple counting out, the student will be assigned 1 demographic group. The State Department has aligned that according to the ESSA standards, and so the first indicator will be economically disadvantaged. That's the first group that's pulled out. They'll be measured. Then students with disabilities, English learners, African Americans, Hispanic, Native American, and then all others. So a student, for accountability purposes, will only be counted once, and then we will actually be able to measure students across the nation, opposed to a score where it's been broken down, and one student is in several different categories. And so there is a section that I'd like to bring to your attention on this sheet, and that's chronic absenteeism. Chronic absenteeism is defined if a student misses 10% or more of an academic school year. From my understanding, and with Mark Manningly's assistance, that is determined as of January 1st across the board. So if a student has been in our system on January 1st, they will be counted in that count to determine if they are chronically absent. For instance, if they are in our total building, if they're in the building at 80%, they get 8 points. If they're in the building, it's 80% of the students are not chronically absent, then that's how they get the 8 points. 90%, 9 points. Principals, with Mr. Manningly's help, have gone through, and with our new Infinite Campus system, probably in the click of 2 buttons, a building principal can at a glance see which students those are. So being aware of that in advance is most important. Also in your packet, I have the exact scores that were here in the newspaper here for you. And on the back, I have just which testings that our students are required to take. As I close, as a takeaway or a summary, what's most important in this new accountability system is the belief that all schools can improve and all children can grow. We don't want to ever get stagnant. We always want to be looking at the data and asking ourselves, how can we do better? And I can truly say, Lawton Public Schools, the students in the schools are growing. So I'll stop now and ask if you have any questions for what I've covered.
What are the numbers out beside this on the Oklahoma accountability system? What are those in parentheses?
Those are the percent in regards of how they will be ranked. So 15% of that will be in the overall calculation. They have actually worked really hard to ensure those do not add up to 100. It actually adds up to 90 so that you can't quite do that predictability there. And I've got to reiterate, it's been great to be at the table to know how a lot of these things have been decided. And it's exciting that each one of the department heads know their roles. But I have to caution, our ESSA plan has not been approved. And so once it's approved, we'll be ready to go, meaning we don't actually know exactly how the measurements will go. But everything that the State Department has provided, we have gone over as a team to determine how does that affect Lawton Public Schools.
So we don't know that for next year we'll be rated on this.
We should be rated on this.
But, okay.
And for an example, the ELPA, that's the English language learners. Ms. Donahue has shared that in her meeting on Friday. They have shared with her, they will still measure that group, but how they'll come up with that score yet will change. For instance, we had 2 indicators that we were using. Now it appears it may only be 1. So that the indicators themselves will be these indicators if the federal government approves. But exactly how detailed in regards of the scoring of, we're not there yet. I do have to also give kudos to Mr. Roloff. When I was a part of the 95-member team, with his help and assistance, we took 3-year previous data, ran it through the formula that they had given us for this so that we could see how our students would fare when you were to pull these out and this out and what that would actually look like. And I can truly say we were still right in the runnings with where we should be. So, as well as Mr. Roloff found a mathematical error in regards of the State Department. So that was pretty exciting there. And I'll go another step further to say, because of the work we've done, when the legislators were approving, Representative Montgomery called, and he very specifically said, how will this affect Lawton? And so we were able to document with evidence that this would not hurt Lawton. And so I want to say this has not been this has been a team effort in regards to get us where we need to be.
Any sort of timeline where they will say, yes, this is what we're going to, or?
No. I was just sharing with the team, I noticed last week the U.S. Department of Education, the national superintendent, she just approved 2. And it's taken about 6 or 8 weeks in order for 2 to get through. I mean, they are really going through them with a fine-tooth comb. And so when we get ours approved, I tell you, it'll be a great day in Oklahoma. That's the only grade that actually, and that's a grade we do ACT.
Right.
So that is where our assessments for high school will come. This past year, you'll notice even in the report, you saw a major dip for 10th grade. Please note that we knew that that was the only year 10th graders were going to take that test. And so when we had to say how important is this to do this, because that 10th grade test is now gone as of today. But for Lawton Public Schools, we have chosen ACT, and it's only measured in 11th grade.
Oh, okay.
And every student takes it. And so in the past, just recently, Mr. Owens did that report. We noticed a slight dip where in the past you only had a certain group that took the ACT, so it was a little, but every student is now taking, and which is a great thing. We're excited. We want every student to take it.
Just for clarification, I understood when Superintendent Hoffmeister came to a meeting that I attended, she indicated that almost all districts in Oklahoma were going to show a significant dip in the assessment scores because they were now being compared to the NAEP.
Right.
Could you elaborate on that? Is that correct?
You're 100%, and please know, I remember being at the Engage OK in Cash when we had our back to school bash, and they put the numbers on the board in regards of samples from Utah and different states to be prepared. You're going to get this major significant dip when these new standards come out. Please note, we took a dip, but not a major dip. And I truly believe it's because of the philosophy of the education where we are truly taking students where they are and not necessarily allowing another indicator to tell us how a student should learn. And a lot of that training is coming from UVA in regards of, we do common formative assessments where we're looking weekly at data, opposed to what Mr. Owens called an autopsy report when the state test comes out. We're tracking that as we go along so we can make instructional changes weekly. And that's coming through collaborations and our PLCs that the building principals are doing in-house.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You mentioned that we look pretty comparable to similar school districts statewide. Can you just elaborate a little bit on that?
Yes, I can. Fred Roloff actually created a sheet in regards of how we're doing, and we're probably ranked like 16th out of a total of 90-some districts. And so when we're up there with the others, that's a pretty good thing.
That's good. But
I have to reiterate, this is a reset year. And so it's other than comparing each other. Recently was at a meeting and heard that they're looking at the state level, how can the community have access to that type of data through the State Department where you can go on and you can pull up Norman, you can pull up Oklahoma City or Tulsa and Lawton and click a button and you can see comparatively how we're doing. And they're working on that now. So that would be exciting.
That'd be great.
That would be.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I do have, actually I have those comparisons of the top 20 districts in the state. And you know, among the different tests and the different ELA or math, there's a core group of districts that are always really in the same, and they really line up demographically. You know, the multi-district, the high school, the districts with several high schools. You know, I can look at I'm looking at 8th grade math. You know, Putnam City, Broken Arrow, Union, Norman, and Lawton are right together. I go to 3rd grade reading. It's the same sort of thing. We all kind of jump up ahead or behind each other, depending on which test it is, but we're all kind of in that cluster. What I'd like to just give everybody some perspective, in 2009-2010 school year, we adopted Common Core. We spent the next 4 or 5 years and hundreds of thousands of hours and millions of dollars implementing it. And then on June 5th, I believe it was, 2014, we repealed it. Literally 3 weeks before it was to be fully implemented. And so since 2014 to this point, we had reverted back to pass. And it was kind of a strange situation. Teachers had thrown away. We were scrambling to even find the standards in some cases. So what Superintendent Hoffmeister compares this to is we've been shooting free throws in the dark since 2010 to 2000, you know, till the testing. This is the first round of this test, period. This is the baseline. And so this test has no comparison to previous tests, has no comparison to Common Core. This is the way this is measured. It's a new paradigm. It's a new view. And so our measure is between this test and next year. Have we grown, and and I'm confident our schools, they've done a great job of identifying how and what to do. They've got a great plan.
You gotta know what you're gonna be tested over.
Yeah, this is really, this is finally, after running around aimlessly as a state, curriculum-wise, for literally if you go 2009 to now, it's just been chaos. I just hope and pray that we stay with these. And I like the ACT. I think that's a great standard. We all know what to shoot for. I'm not saying that we might not go with the SAT at some point, because they've got a lot of good tools that ACT doesn't have. But I just want to remind everybody that may not remember that history. We have been in curriculum chaos in this state since 2010, and it's just not getting any better. This will be the first time we'll have a target that we can all identify and shoot at and agree on for the first time in 10 years almost. So.
That's great.
Thank you, Dr. Pope. Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Get back to my agenda.
Your report?
Yes, under my report, under items 6A and 6B, we have guests here from Nate and, Nate, are you going to lead us? Chris is going to lead us, okay. But I'm going to, with the board's permission, I'll turn it over to our bond advisors and let them take over. Lead us through the steps. Thank you, sir.
So as a reminder, we were here about a month ago, got authorization to do the first issue from the November election. So at that time, we set the date, time, and place to receive bids, which was today at 1 o'clock. In the interim, what we did a little bit different than in the past is because of the large authorization you have, we're going to be doing larger issues, and because of that, to get bidders to bid on these bonds, we need to go through a rating process. So we went through that rating process, and Dr. Deegan and Diane and Lance, they did an excellent job. Your finances are in very solid position. The rating agency saw that, so you ended up getting an A+ rating, which is just 2 notches actually under the state. So that reflects our bids today. These are kind of moves it where because of the size, you're kind of more on a national level. You don't have kind of the small local banks bidding on it now, and you're going to have larger institutions. So we got calls from Citigroup and some others that they might have been on something else at that exact moment. So we're very happy with the bids. The low bid was Robert W. Baird at $2.107889. We carried the zeros out a little too far, I think. But with that, that's who we're recommending you award the bonds to tonight. And so that's agenda item A. And then, so we'll do an action on that first.
Move for approval.
Second.
Ms. Clodfelter?
Yes.
Ms. Nyworth?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
And then the B section is where you're actually authorizing to issue the debt. Now we know who it's going to be awarded to. And then just since we were here last time, I know what's close to your heart is when does the big money come in? And so this was the first step to get the ball moving for the money for the middle school. We have a 30-day kind of what we call contestability period that goes to the state AG. So we'll get that turned in. Nate will get that turned in the next few days. That gets the clock rolling. So that means we can't close until that time's elapsed. So we have it scheduled to close February 28th. Between now and then, we will come back to move forward and get our authorizations to move forward with the lease transaction. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions and entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Ms. Clodfelter?
Yes.
Ms. Nyworth?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you all for driving up, and again, we have Nate and Chris and Joe, Dr. Salno, and we appreciate you all helping us. And Dr. Salno, if you'd like, afterwards I can show you where Lawton and Norman kind of edged each other out a couple times on those scores this week. Every time I see, he's retired from the superintendent seat. Every time I see him, he looks younger, he's taller, he's got more hair. I mean, it's just amazing, yes. But thank you all for coming.
Congratulations.
All right. Under item 6C, discussion and possible action regarding choice of a construction manager at risk. I've asked Kyle Smith to come up and explain the process. We had 2 board members that sat on this committee, Patty Nyworth and Carla Clodfelter. They participated in the deliberations, but I'll have Mr. Smith explain the process, how we narrowed it down. At this point, I think we're going to refrain naming the names of companies. But I want everybody to be comfortable with the process. Having 2 board members on this, I think, was critical, not only for the board to feel comfortable, but also for the community to understand that we're really trying to make sure we're doing this where we're all moving forward in accord. Ultimately, the board may or may not choose to use a construction manager at risk, but understand the process. And I think it was an excellent process, so I'll hand it over to Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Dr. Deegan. And to reiterate what Dr. Polk said, we appreciate your service on the school board. All the time that you put in for our schools and our students is greatly appreciated. And Ms. Nyworth and Ms. Clodfelter for participating in our committee and choosing a construction management firm. We put together a scope of work back at the end of November of 2017. We put out a RFQ, a request for qualifications, the 1st of December, to 60 certified construction management firms across the state. And we got this list from the State Department of Education. The response, we had about 11 or 12 actual RFQs submitted. Kent Ledford, Don McKagan, myself, along with a little help from Corey Miller, went through and shortlisted that first group down to 4. And this last week, December 16th, last Tuesday, we spent pretty much all day long having interviews with 4 prospective construction management firms. During this process of interviews, we had a selection matrix where we looked at experience, budget, and scheduling, deadlines met, those type of things, their capabilities to do the things that we needed them to do for our projects, their reputation across the state with past clients and school districts, what kind of services they could provide, coordinating, you know, from concept to completion of the projects that we have with the upcoming bond issue, and then of course their location, knowledge of site supervision, how familiar are they with the regulations in Lawton in the state. And after interviewing these 4 committees or 4 firms, our committee had a long discussion about everybody was really good. I don't know that we could have gone wrong choosing any of them, but after some long discussions, we narrowed it down to 2 and have a proposal tonight specifically that Dr. Diggin will give you as a recommendation if we choose to go in that direction of using a construction management firm. Is there any questions about the process that we went through?
Just elaborate just a little bit, because as you said, we did interview 4 different firms. All of them were very qualified. I don't think we could have went wrong with any of them, especially our top 3 that we kind of leaned towards. I'm sorry, I'm kind of lost my train of thought, but I've had a long 3 days. But I just felt like it was a good process to be involved in. I really appreciated being part of that.
Yeah, and I am even more convinced that construction manager is the way we want to go. I think
yes,
both Carla and I going through this and seeing what they've done on other projects and hopefully returning some of the money to us and finishing the project on time or early. I mean, that's worth a lot.
Being able to go in and maybe see something that was going to be a certain way, maybe they can see where we can save money by doing something different, bring it to the architect.
And we made it very plain to them in all the interviews that we wanted local people. We prefer that they, if at all possible, have local subs, because that's so important to everybody. They helped us pass the bond issue, and they should benefit from it too.
And that was the question I had for every one of them was, and told them, it's very important to us. We did pass this big bond. Lots of our subs and contractors and things in town supported us with the hopes that maybe, work would come their way if they got a bid and were the low bidder. And we did really reinforce that. Patty and I both did. I thought.
It was a good process, and I think we have a good choice for you.
We have 3 good choices.
Yeah.
It was really hard.
It was.
And most of the debate and discussion was people the differences and the levels of excellence between the top 2 or 3 were just so minute.
Exactly.
that I think that's why it became a tough decision to try for the committee to identify who or which company would be the preference.
Yes, definitely.
We're thankful for all of the companies. I think they spent a lot of time and effort coming up here, so we're really appreciative of the companies that responded.
Yes, and they all 4 of the shortlisted firms visited Lawton. I met with them. They visited each site, so they put their eyes on kind of what we have going on as far as safe rooms and Eisenhower Middle School. So
did you say they visited Lawton?
I visited all the sites.
I visited the sites.
They had all been to all the sites.
The safe rooms have a lot of logistical problems, fitting them on the site,
sure.
and so they had to really do that to be able to even talk about them.
Yes,
Are they local or are they from Lawton?
No, the construction firms they're the closest one was Chickasha, but they're Oklahoma City area.
Gotcha. Local-ish.
If the board has any further questions for Mr. Smith, what I would like to request that the board do on item, let me get back to where I'm supposed to be.
6C.
I got it way down here. On item 6C, what I would be hesitant to do is, at this point, identify the firms, but I'd like the board to authorize me to prepare a contract with the firm
Start negotiations.
Yes.
Well, and that's why we're not going to name the firm, because they're starting
Because
negotiations.
I may have
And
to-
if that doesn't,
May have
if we
to go
can't come
number
to
two.
the terms, then we will.
If I can't present a contract to the board with the first firm, we have two
Right.
good firms following them
Exactly.
that would be really good choices. And I think, I would like to, I think we can do that in a timeframe and get it to the February board meeting, so.
The February 5th one, is that what we're, okay, great.
So with the board's permission, that's what I'd recommend, that you allow us, and of course by us, I mean Mr. Smith, and would be doing most of the work, preparing the contract with the architects, hammering out and making sure we can come up with a negotiation that we can present to the board with confidence.
And our architect was very helpful
Oh, our
in this whole
architects, yeah,
process.
very much so.
So we don't have a name right now, but I want,
To proceed.
I'd like to make the motion that we.
Can I ask a
Go ahead.
question?
I'm sorry, Ken.
So what you're going to do is you're going to begin to put together a contract based on the recommendations of the committee?
the favorite, the identified preference of the committee, of those companies.
So do we not need to first approve that we're going to approve the recommendations of the committee?
What I'm just requesting is you just authorize me to prepare a contract for the February 5th board meeting.
I'll make a motion that we do that. We begin the negotiations to come back for our February board meeting.
I'll second it.
Call roll, please.
Yes.
Ms. Nyworth?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
Before we, I have a question, and this may not be the appropriate time to ask this question, but it's something I've been thinking about since Tuesday. You know, as we're going through this construction management at risk, you know, and how they're lined out to detail to do things, and they're qualified to be able to find people to fix things. I'm thinking about our home maintenance and stuff. Would it be something that we could do in our own maintenance department here, where we actually have a company that is in charge of something like that?
It's something we can definitely look at.
I was just curious. That way, because we've got so many projects going, and we're going to be so, you know, we're moving so quickly, I just wondered if that might be something we wanted to look at.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Last item on my report are superintendent announcements, and a lot of things going on in the district, but if everybody will notice, this is School Board Appreciation Month, and I would love to take credit for all the kites on the wall.
You spent a lot of time on it.
I did. Dr. Polk and Lynn Cordes, with their staff, contacted the schools, and so every school in the district is represented here. And a matter of fact, I'm going to, in the years past, board members have had an opportunity to grab one, but we're going to ask you not do that till February. But the sites, you know, I hope you get a chance, and our visitors as well, maybe while we're in executive session, to look around and see what the messages and the sentiments are from the schools. But they're really creative, and I thank Lynn and Dr. Polk and all the staff here that helped coordinate the principals. I walked in the other day and had a principal say, Dr. D, I dropped off my kite, and I'm thinking, okay.
I visited a school yesterday, and they were in the office working on. And I went, what are you doing here?
Every year, this is about the fourth year we've done something like this, and every year we've done it, the principals and the staff, they just get such a kick out of doing it, and it's a one-up. You know, I think the staff is starting to really appreciate the fact that when board members sign up and have all the responsibility and burdens of a superintendent or an assistant or a principal with none of the pay and all the liability. So
I mean, you took away that pay we got last year?
I'm going to go ahead and triple it this year.
Oh, thank you.
Every year I'm going to triple your pay.
Okay, good.
But I want to thank our staff up here, but most of all the principals and the teachers and the students who went to all this effort. And I hope you all feel appreciated and honored.
You were too at the end. Okay, good.
Okay, great.
All right, that's my, I'm just going to
Okay,
stop there.
all right. The consent agenda.
As far as I know,
Any
I'm going to have to
questions?
trust it.
All
I'm going to have
right.
to trust my fellow board members on our consent agenda, because for whatever reason, I couldn't get everything to pull up. So
Okay.
this is where a team works together.
Okay.
I need to remove 7F1, which is the sanctioning.
Okay, 7F1. All right.
I make a motion to approve the remainder of the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Call the roll.
Ms. Clodfelter?
Yes.
Ms. Nyworth?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
Now we need to approve 7F1.
Oh,
Okay, hold on.
should we, what, we waiting?
She said, hold on.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I wasn't waiting.
Oh,
Okay.
Okay.
okay, so I make a motion, we approve 7F1.
Second?
Ms. Clodfelter?
Yes.
Ms. Nyworth?
Abstain?
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
Okay. And we do need a executive session.
Yes, I believe so.
So we need executive session.
Patty and Carla.
Feel free, Kelly, anytime to override me.
Kelly's squirreling
No,
over
we're
here.
so good at it.
Okay. Ms. Nyworth?
Yes.
Okay. And who
Carla,
needs a
second.
Okay. Ms. Clodfelter?
Yes.
Ms. Nyworth?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
We need to make sure the doors
Okay, Kelly.
Okay, I'll make the motion to return from executive session.
Second.
Ms. Clodfelter?
Yes.
Ms. Nyworth?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
Statement of executive session. The board went into executive session at 5:45 PM. Members present included Dr. Lori Bridges, President, Kent Jester, Vice President, Carla Clodfelter, Patty Nyworth, and Kelly Edwards, members. Other members present included Dr. Tom Deegan, who entered at 5:50 and left again at 6:25. Items discussed included the employing, promoting, or receiving resignation of individual certified or support salaried personnel as listed on the certified and support personnel reports. B, a recommendation to approve board-appointed position, and C, evaluation of Superintendent Deegan. During the executive session, the board discussed these items and no other items, and no action was taken. And the board returned to open session at 6:35 PM. This constitutes the minutes of executive session. Okay.
Under item 12, Superintendent's Personnel Report, we have two items. Item A, approval of certified and support personnel reports. I recommend.
Make a motion we approve.
I'll second.
Ms. Clodfelter?
Yes.
Ms. Nyworth?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
And item B is recommend approve board-appointed position, and this is the position of Assistant Treasurer Barbara Logan.
Second.
Ms. Clodfelter?
Yes.
Ms. Nyworth?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
Any new business?
No new business that
No
I know
new
of.
business. Okay. Next regular board meeting is set for February 5th at 5 PM here. Any special board meetings that we need to set?
Not that I know of, unless
Okay.
you all have some.
Nope. Any board announcements? Mr. Jester?
Item 17, I make a motion.
Well, before, I think we need to, I heard you all talking, it's just not my announcement time, but Kelly's firm.
Oh, yeah, I was going to congratulate Kelly again on her company receiving a prestigious worldwide award.
International award.
That's awesome. It's
Big deal.
awesome. It's awesome. And also, I got to attend the Martin Luther King celebration that the school district did, and it was awesome.
cool.
It was really awesome.
I'm going to read more emails. I kind of missed that. At dinner, I was like, whoop. Should have known that.
Now, Kent, now.
Okay, Kent.
Green light?
Go.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Ms. Clodfelter?
Yes.
Ms. Nyworth?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes.